The latest news, national issues, the political scene, and conversations with prominent personalities. All these firsthand at the forefront. Good morning. I am Attorney Karen Jimeno. 20% of cigarettes and vapes sold in the Philippines are illegal. Just 4 days ago and last September, more than 21 containers of frozen mackerel that came in without import documents were distributed to 150 families. The Philippines is swamped by over 2 trillion pesos worth of smuggled goods annually. The Bureau of Customs has been raiding warehouses recently, intensifying its efforts to run after contraband commodity. With the BOC cracking its whip on smugglers, will it seize more black market goods and put a halt on the economic sabotage? Joining us this morning is the Assistant Commissioner and Spokesperson of the Bureau of Customs, Attorney Vincent Maronilla. Good morning, Assistant Commissioner Vincent.
Good morning, Attorney Karen, and good morning to all your viewers.
Okay, let's start with the most imported goods by the Philippines. So can you give us the top 10 goods that are mostly imported by the Philippines?
Well, top 10 that we have is, of course, petroleum products. We do import a lot of them. Rice and other agricultural products. Motor vehicles, we also have them. Some other components, electronic components that we use to manufacture and also export are highly importable. So those are the top. There are electronic items and of course, petroleum products. And of course, non-oil products as well.
And contrast that with smuggled goods. What are the top most smuggled goods into the Philippines?
The top most smuggled goods into the Philippines are counterfeit items.
So mostly yung are these mga fake?
Yes, yes. For this year alone, our enforcement and intelligence group has already apprehended about 84 billion worth of smuggled goods. And out of these, if you disaggregate this amount per commodity, the top would be counterfeit goods, which is about 34 billion pesos.
When you say counterfeit, like, do these have to do with clothing or also consumer products like food?
Food, not so much. Clothing, yes. Accessories, yes. But we do have apprehensions of counterfeit medicines, which is very dangerous.
Oh no, talaga, kahit
Yes,
medicines. How do we know if it's counterfeit? Like, if we're buying from reputable stores, are we sure that they're going to be genuine?
Yes, if you're buying from legitimate drug stores, especially the big ones. No? Even the small ones, as long as it's a legitimate one, they have the necessary permits to do business. I think they're being regulated by the proper government agency, and you can rest assured that they're selling legitimate products. But if you're buying online, and it's the price is a little bit cheaper, and the one that's selling is not really a registered drug company, maybe you should be apprehensive of it.
And does that apply to other types of goods? Because sometimes when I go online, I can see na mas mura talaga, a lot of different brands, whether it's lotion or kahit yung mga damit din, like merong mas mura online. So how do we know if they're fake? And mas dangerous pagka ina-apply or iniinom or kinakain, right?
Yes. I think it's a matter of exercising your common sense. No? If it's too cheap already, and if you look at the profile of the online seller, I think right now we're in the age where we're not just selling it online, but there are tools available to the public to check the seller as well. If you check the profile and there are red flags to it, maybe you shouldn't be too trusting. And just buy from regular stores that are actually registered. The regular stores that are selling offline are now selling online already. So maybe you can just check those stores. At least legitimate businesses, well, they're responsible enough, and they're registered in our government. so that there are feedback mechanisms and there are agencies that regulate them. And we can be assured that their products that they sell go through a rigorous process where even the government checks them.
Okay. And Ascom, can you help us be educated on the differences and our ability to bring in goods from abroad? Kasi when you do online shopping, you can also order from other reputable websites abroad. But then coming in, there are instances when instead of getting your package, you get a note na kailangan mo siya i-claim and then suddenly you have to pay duties. But then contrast that to OFWs naman, they can bring in balikbayan boxes up to, I think, 150,000 worth.
Yes.
So, ano yung difference nun?
Well, we call this e-commerce, no? The one that you can buy on online shops like Lazada, Shopee,
Or even Amazon, for
Amazon,
example.
yeah. So those are e-commerce products. Basically, if you buy them for your personal use, the limit is about 10,000 pesos. That's the de minimis amount that we call them. So if
Pag
the
luxury items, like let's say it's an expensive bag or expensive shoes that's worth 20,000, i-charge ka ba ng custom duties?
Yes, unfortunately, the law says that if an imported good is valued more than 10,000 pesos, then it's above the de minimis threshold. So duties and taxes will have to be paid, even if
Okay.
it's for personal use, unfortunately.
Eh pag madami, let's say mura lang per item but you ordered like 10, lalo na ngayon Christmas because let's say you're ordering to give them as gifts.
Yes, but if it's only one person that's importing it or one entity, the aggregate amount of those goods would be taken into consideration.
If it's more than 10,000,
If
you
it's
have
more
to
than 10,
pay.
yes.
And what about balikbayans, or sorry, OFWs? They can bring in balikbayan boxes that are worth 150,000 pesos, three times
Tax-free.
a year?
Yes.
How do you regulate that? Or are they allowed to bring in like a lot of things that yung iba kasi they end up selling it later on, or they're bringing in like 3 of the same bags from abroad? Is there a regulation on that?
There is. Actually, we've come up with a regulation on how to claim that particular privilege from our balikbayan, from the balikbayans, from OFWs, returning residents. No? We have a set of requirements. You can look it up online. Like for OFWs, just their passport, OFW registration card with POEA or OWA, and that would be enough for them to claim that privilege. And they can claim that privilege 3 times a year. Again, the assumption is these are personal goods intended for the consumption of their family. Now, if they're bringing in commercial goods that are no longer for consumption but for business, the law would say that they should pay duties and taxes. But again,
Chine-check nyo ba? Do
because
you
of the-
inspect the boxes?
we have a policy where we're a little bit lenient with our OFWs. No? Sometimes it's really impossible to check how many commercial goods can actually fit in one balikbayan box. And sometimes the OFW would argue that marami siyang kamag-anak, or it's really intended to be used by his or her relatives long term. So with that explanation, we're a little bit lenient, no. Anyway, revenue loss coming from those kinds of incidents are very minimal.
So it's really the massive
Yes.
smuggling
Yes.
where there's a big loss to the government.
Yes. What we do guard against in balikbayan box are illicit items like illegal drugs.
How do you inspect or detect those?
We don't conduct physical examination on balikbayan boxes. Let me just emphasize that again to our kababayans, that hindi ho kami nag-i-inspect physically ng balikbayan boxes. We do respect those items because we know how hard our OFWs work for those items. But we do have modern scanners. So the modern X-ray devices that the Bureau of Customs use for balikbayan boxes has material discrimination capability. Meaning, if there are illegal substances that are contained in those balikbayan boxes, our scanners can detect them.
Okay. When did this start get the implementation of the modern scanners?
Oh, way back, if I'm not mistaken, way back 2017 or 2018.
Matagal na
Matagal
rin.
matagal na.
And may mga nahuli na ba ng mga illegal drugs and other illicit items that were brought in through balikbayan boxes?
Yes. In fact, we're resolving a case right now because nahaluan siya ng mga legitimate balikbayan boxes. We apprehended several balikbayan boxes coming from Thailand, and several of those contained illicit drugs.
And was it also from just one person or hinalo siya ng some other syndicate or organization?
They use individuals, but during our investigation together with PIDEA, we were able to establish that only one person is actually responsible, and he used certain dummies to certain balikbayans as his dummies to bring in the illicit goods.
And ASCOM, Vince, there are some people when they travel or study abroad, they bring home balikbayan boxes as well. Yun, hindi sila OFW, but are they also subject to leniency when they're bringing in balikbayan boxes? Because some people, they're all just on vacation. Tapos, pag marami na yung nabili nila, sabihin nila, oh, i-balikbayan box na lang natin pa uwi.
Oh, huwag lang luxury goods.
Paano yun check?
We have a way of checking. I guess what people don't understand is modern customs administration right now, such as the one we have exchange of information programs with other countries. If you're coming in from Japan, buying luxury goods, coming in from Singapore, our counterparts there, through the Regional Intelligence Liaison Office, would already inform us.
Oh, really? Yeah. So how do you know? Because of the amount of purchases or because you're required to fill up forms? Kasi di ba iba naman, credit card lang. So how are you able to know?
You use your rebates.
Sa rebates.
Yeah, so you use your rebates, you're registered in their custom system.
Yes, yeah.
And that's
and you
a
have
lot
to give
of
your
that,
passport
you have to
details
get your passport, and in some countries, it's very detailed. It's very digitized and very detailed. So some of those information. Number two, if we don't have that, our examiners at the airports are very trained to do risk profiling, passenger profiling, risk profiling. So if you're coming in from Hong Kong or places where you usually get commercial goods, then most likely your items would be marked for X-ray examination. The way we detect it is that at the bottom of your carousels, there are X-ray devices by customs.
Sa bottom ng carousel, when you're trying to claim your luggage?
Yes. So sa ilalim nun, dadaan na yun sa X-ray namin. So pag akyat nun sa carousel, that's why you see the X.
Ganon. So pag yung maleta punong-puno ng mga
pag may X na yun,
mga luxury goods or like same of like commercial goods,
yes,
then mukhang pang ibebenta, then you
yes,
can detect that. So
yes,
for those traveling this holiday season, how should they plan when they're buying luxury goods? Para malaman nila kung ano yung proper limits. Because some of them really like overbuy or some buy alcohol then.
Yeah.
What are the things they should keep in mind? Kasi yung form ng customs, sometimes we just say no to everything.
Of course.
Without thinking na, hindi naman siguro i-inspect yan.
Yes.
And we often see it when you're leaving the airport. Hindi naman nila isa-stop to check, diba?
Yeah. Well, my advice is you just declare.
Declare
You just
whatever
declare.
is the question
Whatever
there.
the question there. If whatever items that are applicable to the questions that are propounded in the questionnaire of customs, you just declare them.
So ano yung mga goods na dapat binabayaran ng custom duties? Like if you buy an expensive watch abroad or expensive bags, are these subject to custom duties?
Yes, as long as it's above 10,000 pesos.
Talaga?
Yun talaga yung threshold.
Talagang even if ikaw mismo yung nag-travel, basta lampas ng 10,000 at pabalik ka ng Philippines, you have to declare those.
Yes, that's the rule. All countries naman have their de minimis amount. And we patterned ours with that particular amount. In fact, some countries, because of the growing number of e-commerce transactions, are now studying lowering that amount. We've not yet done that. It's still under study. So, ang standard before was about $200 for all countries. Yun yung most common, $200. So when we modernized our law, we patterned the de minimis amount to that. Of course, subject to the flexibility of the Secretary of Finance. He can lower it down or bring it up to that particular level, but no more than 10,000 pesos. So right now, it's 10,000 pesos.
Well, a lot of Filipinos like to go shopping abroad kasi sasabihin nila mas mura doon. And then, of course, they just buy whatever they want there and then bring it back here. And often without declaring. So what will happen if you get caught?
What we do naman is we just assess.
So you mean you just have to pay?
Yes, we assess the, yeah. That's why it's
duties?
very important also to keep your receipts. Because the amount of purchase for a particular item is the basis for our taxes. So our duties and taxes are based on transaction value. So that means the price you paid for the goods.
Okay. And how do you avoid the inconvenience also of being taxed for goods coming in from abroad? So just as an example, for my husband, he had Alienware, which is this bespoke computer that doesn't have any servicing in the Philippines. So when parts of it broke down, he sent it back to the US. And then when it was being sent back after the repair, he was being assessed to pay taxes on the full value of the computer as if it were brand new.
Yeah, I could understand. That's a very common issue because people who bring back items under warranty, they're not really fully aware of the procedure that's needed to be able to claim for a tax break when it's brought in back to the Philippines. What you do actually is you get a certificate of identification. That certificate, you can get it from our export division, from the port where you're going to export it, or bring it back to the country where you're going to have it repaired. That certificate of identification practically says that this item has already been brought and taxes were paid for it. So that when you bring it out and you bring it in again, you just have to show us your certificate of identification.
Okay, a lot of people are not aware of that. They just send it out. They'll go to like a FedEx, DHL, and then send out their item.
Because they don't deal with customs. They only deal with maybe the company that's given the warranty. So
Hindi mahirap yung process. Will it take like
mahirap yung process.
just an hour or so? Like matrabaho ba yung pagkuha ng certificate?
That's why it's also very prudent to keep your import records, or at least your receipts when you brought it. But really, it's not a tedious process. When you're able to show to us that your intention is merely to bring it out for repair or to claim for warranty, most of the time we issue certificates of identification because we know the problem when you bring it back here. The problem is kasi when you bring it back here, there's really, without a certificate of identification, there's really no proof that the item was actually exported, except for that export declaration. But we'll never know if it's the same item, or it has been replaced with a new item. Number two, if and we don't usually implement this very strictly. But again, I'm going by the law. No, if the spare part or the new spare part that was installed in your old gadget or item exceeds 10,000 pesos, we're actually mandated to charge the spare part, the new spare part.
Pag yung spare part din.
Yes.
Okay, talagang strict, no? I remember a friend that bought mga perfume from Hong Kong, and then when she was trying to bring it here to the Philippines, mas mahal pa raw total yung gagastusin niya because of all the duties that she has to pay. So, naghahanap na lang siya ng person na, can you bring it back to the Philippines? But even then pala, kung mapadala niya yun to the Philippines ng hand carry, or in their luggage, basta lampas ng 10,000 pesos, it has to be declared and you have to pay the proper custom duties.
Yes.
And let's go to a more national level. So you said yung mga ganyan naman, maliit lang yung impact sa economy natin. But it's really the large-scale smuggling that affects our economy. So right now, are there still rampant smuggling of agricultural goods? And ngayon, uso yung mga vapes, cigarettes. Are these still smuggled into the Philippines?
Well, if you compare it to previous years, there has been a significant reduction, even in the attempt to smuggle these goods. Because agricultural products and vape, which is now being one of the most highly smuggled items, they are top priorities right now. Orders from the president himself are very strict on these items. So we're on red alert for these items. Even going as far as coordinating with the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard, because we've observed na since we're very strict on the ports already, unscrupulous importers or smugglers would usually use the high seas already. So because we have lots of coastlines na wala namang ports and sometimes are unguarded, they would use large vessels to stay in international waters, and then smaller vessels, smaller local vessels would go to those large vessels and siphon off smuggled items and bring it to open shores.
Okay, so mas sophisticated na. And is the Coast Guard working with the customs?
Yes, in fact, we've apprehended several attempts to do that. Now, on the side of our ports, there's rigorous examination and, of course, risk profiling already. Anyway, we've have tons of experience already on which kinds of modus are being used to bring in these items. And we update these intelligence information regularly through coordination with other customs administration, especially the countries where they come from. So we know the plan that they're actually formulating and how they intend to bring it in even before they bring
Marami
it
na
in.
kayong nahuli. And normally, from which country do these smuggled goods come from?
It would depend. There are, I guess, there are specific countries where specific smuggled goods come from, and like for example, cigarettes. We usually guard items coming from Myanmar, Laos, those kinds of countries. For smuggled agricultural products, for some reason, even if it comes from other countries, they always transship it to China first. Maybe
Okay.
because they want to change declarations, sometimes change containers to avoid detection, and then they bring it here.
So not necessarily from China, yung mga agricultural goods. Do they also come from other countries like Latin America? Because when you
Yes.
talk about agricultural goods, you can also have like meat.
Yes,
And
it can come from Thailand, it can come from India. There are products there that are being smuggled. But of course, again, maybe because of the large production of China, a lot of the items really come from China.
And what do you do with the seized goods? Do you destroy them or do you, well, yung mackerel, it was recently given out to 150 families. But what is the normal procedure?
If the agricultural product is examined by the Department of Agriculture and it's tested to be deemed not fit for human consumption, then we destroy it.
Pero pag iba, do you
Pag fit
auction
naman
it
for-
off
pag
or
fit
do you
naman
give it
for-
away?
Pag fit naman for human consumption, we can auction it off or donate it.
Okay, so yung iba, yung recently, yung mackerel, yung mga cigarettes, do you auction it off?
No.
Destroyed na.
Yes.
What about cars? Because before, under Secretary Sonny Dominguez and former President Duterte, they had luxury cars destroyed. So sayang naman, but is that normal to just destroy them and not auction them off?
No, actually, previous to that incident, what we do is we auction them off. And of course, the proceeds of the auction goes to the National Treasury, which
Okay.
can be used to fund a lot of government projects.
And generally, how do you check if the smugglers don't participate in the auction? Because if they get to buy the cars in the auction, then more or less, at least they get the proceeds of the smuggling.
Yes, that's one of the things that we look out for. In fact, there's a separate accreditation process, registration process, and background check by our intelligence and enforcement groups to the entities and the persons that are going to participate in the auction process.
Okay. And in 2016, then Senator Ping Lacson exposed a TARA system in the Bureau of Customs. And this TARA system also came out in recent Quadcom hearings. Does this TARA system still exist in the Bureau of Customs today? But before you answer that question, we'll have to take a short break. At the Forefront, we'll be right back.
Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, what does the investigation cover? We tackle the issues,
The president's immunity from suit is absolute.
we clarify matters, and we get on point.
Watch his press con. Sinabi niya na ayaw niya ng kudita.
What is questionable about the AR, sir? The Vice President keeps insisting walang active threat kung hindi ako mamamatay.
Tignan na lang natin, mahirap pang pangunahan eh.
Pinky Webb on point. Beauty, health, adventure. This is for you. Join Marie Lozano where she uncovers the untold stories and unexpected surprises in the world of lifestyle.
We wanted to create a space where we could dive into these topics not just by talking to experts, but experiencing the topics firsthand. Let me tell you about the Lifestyle Lab.
On BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Good morning, I'm Ferdy Salvador.
I'm Mikey Oreta, and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the industry leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their respective fields, one industry at a time.
The industry changes quite rapidly.
We know where to go. We've got our comfort zone.
Those are early manifestations for the of what
I'm happy you told me that because now I know I'm not getting Alzheimer's.
Industry Beacon on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Two reasons why. I think the first one is I come from a rice farming background in Ilocos Norte. I have relatives that does rice farming and really saw the complexities that they saw every single day. And second is really my immersion in Singapore. Earlier this year, I went to Singapore and I interned for a startup that helped shrimp farmers manage the risks of disease testing in Vietnam. So having to understand that risks is the biggest, most vulnerable factors that affect farming, I tried to apply that in the Philippines, and AgriConnect came to be.
Welcome back at the Forefront. Assistant Commissioner Vince, in 2016, Senator Ping Lacson exposed a TARA system in the Bureau of Customs. This TARA system also came out in the recent Quadcom hearings. One, can you explain to us what this TARA system is, and does this still exist in the Bureau of Customs today?
Yeah. So according to the allegations of Senator Lacson, each office or certain offices in the Bureau of Customs would get a certain sum for each container that are being processed. Not naman all, but at least those that I think needs to get through because of certain issues. So that was the allegation then. And this system was investigated during that time. I think it was endorsed to different offices for investigation, especially those that were identified, went through those investigations. But for the part of the Bureau of Customs, we implemented certain measures to prevent this already. This system is actually anchored on face-to-face transaction. That's why during the pandemic, I think it's divine providence also that we were forced to elevate the system then that we were working on. It was at a beta stage, but we needed to implement it. So implemented what we call the customer client profile system, CCPS. This system complements our electronic to mobile system. The electronic to mobile system is the online system of the Bureau of Customs, where you can lodge in your declarations and process your goods. What the CCPS does is it allows, we mandate all transactions to be online. Meaning we don't require any physical presence anymore at the point.
Even these are for large commercial
Yes.
importers.
All your documents, you submit it through PDF, in PDF form, through the system. Together with your lodgement in the E2M, we give you an electronic ticket, and that electronic ticket you can use. It creates a chat with your assigned examiner, which you don't know who. It's just assigned the number. And you can converse in that chat, which is recorded and being monitored by our intelligence
Recorded
group.
na.
Recorded.
So, mahirap na for members of custom to ask for, or to extort money.
Number one, because of that system, hindi na namin pinapayagan yung mga brokers na pumasok sa bureau at do face-to-face transactions with the examiners and the section assigned. No? So they can't do that anymore. They have to do it online through the ticket system. If we find a gap in the ticket system where it seemed that there were conversations that happened not recorded in that system, then we call the concerned officer and have him investigated.
And would ask Vince, you've been with the customs for 15 years. Would you know if there were a lot of people that were terminated from customs due to this TARA system?
Yes, and the commissioner now, Commissioner Bian Rubio, is very strict with this one. He endorses people who where complaints of illicit activities are being made to investigated, not just by our own internal inquiry group, but other government agencies as well. So we want to be as transparent as possible, and we want to send a signal to our employees that hindi na po pwede yung ganong sistema. No? One of the proof that this particular system has been really, if not stopped, is now down to the barest minimum, is that it shows through our performance. Makikita nyo naman ho na we've been reaching our targets. We've been reaching our targets for apprehensions in smuggling activities as well. And again, we've had several programs to boost our employees' morale also. No?
So the amount that our researchers found earlier, the 2 trillion pesos worth of smuggled goods, is that a number that's been decreasing, and is that a current number that has already gone down from prior years?
Yes. In fact, one of the main criticisms we've always had was that the UN Trade Office, the UNCTAD, data on exports going to the Philippines and our own records of imports has not matched. Meaning the export data has always been higher than the import data, suggesting that some of the volume the difference in volume were actually smuggled. But we'd had efforts together with UNCTAD to reconcile this data, and right now it's down to
gone down.
less than point-something %, which is explainable because of some transshipment issues. So I think the work done by Commissioner Rubio and the rest of the BOC team to answer these discrepancies in data and address loopholes in our system has significantly improved the way we do things, and of course significantly improved the perception of the public, and of course corruption issues that hounds the Bureau.
As convinced, the other issue apart from just plain smuggling would be the misdeclaration of goods. So, apart from not declaring goods, yung isa naman misdeclaration. So, lalo na, for example, with poultry, there's an executive order that gives a lower custom duty for yung processed na chicken meat na ginagamit sa mga chicken nuggets. But then if it's the actual chicken, you pay a higher import duty. But ginagawa, dinedeclare siya as I think it's called MDM.
Yeah, mechanically deboned meat.
Yeah, so paano nyo dinedetect yung mga misdeclaration? Kasi it also happens with cars, di ba? you bring in a luxury car that's supposed to pay a higher amount of tax. Pero pagka dineclare siya, nakalagay ano lang, let's say, a Toyota, whereas it's really like a Ferrari. How do you catch that now, or how do you address that?
Cars are a little bit easier because they go through scanners eh. So makikita mo agad yung shape. And then again, we were doing a yearly check with LTO on the matching of the certificate of payment that we have with their registration. Plus of course we've been going through warehouses and checking. The biggest misconception I think that we have is that when we do raids and we find out smuggled items outside of the custom zone, is that yung ports namin did not do their job very well because nakalusot daw, diba?
Yeah.
Nakalusot, gano'n.
But that's I think for me, the high risk for corruption, because kung tao yung nag-inspect, then it's easy to just collaborate with them and say, babayaran kita, and just don't declare this Ferrari and sabihin mo na lang na ang nakita mo lang is a Toyota Fortuner.
Yes,
So,
and if that happens, we will be able to check if we raid these items. And we do backtrack investigation. So we backtrack and we investigate what happens. But what I want to explain is that in modern customs administration, really part of the job is to go out of the customs zone and inspect. If you just watch YouTube, you look at the customs of the United States, customs of Australia, and other modern customs authorities, they do have a very active enforcement of customs laws outside of the border already. Because the risk system that we use, part of that is that you have to inspect outside of customs also. Remember, we're trying to, the volume of items that are being brought in through containers in the Philippines alone is a little less than 10,000 containers per day.
per day.
Per day. How do you inspect that?
Yeah.
How do there's a system that we use to identify certain risk. And now, to mitigate further those risks, we have to go out of the custom zone and do these raids. It's not a raid. It's actually, we exercise a visitorial power and just check. It's just actually a customs check. We look at the documents. If you're able to provide those documents and documents matches with our system and it all checks out, then we release the goods. If it doesn't check out, then there lies the problem. Now, ang gagawin namin, we'll seize the goods now. And we've found out that that's a very good deterrent in misdeclaring goods at the border. Because they know even if, let's say, they do hanky-pankies and able to escape the rigorous inspection at the port level, they will have to deal with our people who are inspecting the warehouses and doing these customs inspections.
What about the unscrupulous consolidation of balikbayan boxes? What is this about?
It has gone up, in recent years. Before, we experienced about 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most per year now. Now it's gone up very significantly. Right
What is
now,
it ba? What happens there?
what happens is, so may OFWs tayo, from other countries. What they usually would bring in to the Philippines or send to the Philippines their balikbayan boxes through forwarders. Now, in that country, it's called consolidators. They consolidate the balikbayan boxes, bring it here, and they have a counterpart company in the Philippines, which is called the deconsolidators. Now, the deconsolidators will process customs clearance and deliver the balikbayan boxes to the owners. Now, it's the relationship between the deconsolidator and the consolidator is very important because there's a contractual relationship there. Meaning, the deconsolidator is being paid by the consolidator to do its job. And the only entity that the deconsolidator here in the Philippines is talking to, hindi naman yung mga OFWs natin, yung consolidator. So, unscrupulous individuals are now establishing consolidators in the country where there are OFWs. And they'll bring down the prices. So yung OFWs natin, of course, magtitipid sila eh. So they will engage those consolidators with a lower price, trusting that they will give the same service because that's the representation eh. So when these balikbayan boxes are brought in here, the deconsolidators are either not aware that they were used by these consolidators and were declared as the deconsolidators or named as the deconsolidators, or they're not being paid. So what happens now is that the deconsolidators will not process the balikbayan boxes, and the balikbayan boxes
Get stuck there.
and becomes abandoned.
Hindi na makuha. But what if the OFW tries to claim it? Pwede ba nilang bayaran na lang yung fees?
Pwede naman. But the problem is, all import documentations is with the consolidator and deconsolidator. Ang hawak lang ng pobreng OFW. Minsan nga, hindi pa nila alam kung nasan yung bill of lading, yung container number. Sometimes resibo
So,
lang.
hindi talaga nila matrace din.
Hindi talaga nila matrace. Ngayon, it would take time for us to trace it, di ba? Once we trace it, we bring it down, and then, unfortunately, yung batas natin dyan limits the Bureau of Customs on the kind of, we call it, disposal. So what we do is, we try to engage kind-hearted individuals to participate in the auction process with the condition that we will distribute it after it's auctioned to him.
So pwede ino-auction off din yung mga balikbayan
Yun
boxes
kasi yung rule,
that are unclaimed?
yun kasi yung rule before, nung old law namin. Nung na-create yung bagong batas, we were given the option to donate. So what we're doing now, we donate it to DMW.
So may mga ibang nawalan ng boxes na donate na lang?
Hindi, we donate it to the Department of Migrant Workers.
Yes.
For the Department of Migrant Workers to distribute it to the owners.
Hahanapin nila yung
Hanapin
owners.
talaga namin yung owners.
My goodness, what a difficult job. So I guess a warning to OFWs, pag mura na consolidator, check nyo yung background. Wag na magtipid. Just look for a reputable consolidator.
Lagi naman namin, ang goal namin is to be able to bring it to the owner naman talaga. But the problem is, because ginagawa ng paraan ni government, dumadami yung unscrupulous consolidator.
Yeah.
Kasi sabihin nila, pag naloko namin, gagawa naman ng paraan ng customs yan eh.
Yeah.
At saka ng government na mapunta pa rin doon. They don't care anymore na nagtatagal, na ano. And right now, ang nakapending sa amin is about 15 containers already.
Yeah, and just the process is
Yes.
it's going to be 15 containers ng balikbayan boxes to. Punong-puno ng balikbayan
At
box.
450 per container, that's about, siguro mga more than 10,000.
Oh my
Mga
goodness.
14,000 to 15,000.
Ganun kadami.
Ganun kadami.
Hahanapin niyo yung owners. But, okay, Assistant Commissioner, you've been in customs for a long time. So, with these modernization programs, nagbago na rin ba yung culture inside the Bureau of Customs? Because before, ang mga chismis is that if you're an inspector, if you're a district collector, you're likely a millionaire. As in, you'll make millions from being in the Bureau of Customs. So, meron pa bang ganong possibility ng corruption up to now?
Kaya yung applicant sa amin, haba, ano? Pag, that has been, that's one of the things that we prioritize to address, no? I think, really, no, early on, we've established that it's, to be able to change the Bureau, we really have to change the culture. You know, number one, if before, no, wala kaming hiring. So it's the same people who was there. 6,000 yung personal complement dapat namin. 3,000 lang yun nandun kasi nagkaroon ng moratorium for hiring. So what we did is we filled up the remaining, and before you are engaged in your work, you go through a rigorous training program, and part of that rigorous training program is an integrity package. No? There's an integrity training package that we do, teaching you that, you know, hindi naman ganito yung trabaho ng customs. Punta ka sa customs hindi para magpayaman. It's really public service.
Does it work? Is that sufficient?
There's a big difference now.
Talaga, you get to see the difference.
Coming from me, who's been there for 15 years. And really, we invite people nga to go to customs and experience it. It's a big difference now. People are more service-oriented. And because the new Commissioner of Customs, Commissioner Rubio, is a career officer, people relate to him. And when he says that, alam mo, hindi dapat ganito yung perception sa atin, majority naman kasi talaga ng taga-bureau, matitino eh. We get to be affected by the very few na talagang na-highlight eh. Diba?
And former President Duterte's Bureau of Customs appointees were reportedly sacked due to disclosures of customs broker Mark Taguba and Customs Intelligence Officer Jimmy Guban at the Quadcom hearings. What are your comments on that? But before you answer that question, we'll have to take a short break. At the Forefront, we'll be right back.
This is Weather HQ.
Good morning. Welcome to Weather HQ. I'm Paolo De Rosario. Today's headline.
Get to know the latest weather update and forecast with information to help us understand important aspects regarding our climate.
Will help to prevent flash flooding.
To provide access to clean water and the system-level services to everybody who needs it.
Kung alala po natin, ang northeasterly wind flow po ay malamig na hangin po.
Whatever the weather, here on BNC.
Weather HQ, 9 a.m. The Bilyonaryo News Channel. At BNC, 12 noon doesn't mean break. But
Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, staunch Duterte ally Salvador Panelo believes Vice President Sara Duterte will be impeached. United Nations hailing the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Australia officially banning children under 16 from social media. And those are the news this hour. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
bawat anggulo ng bawat issue.
9 out of 10 Filipinos ang nais na mapanagot ang mga corrupt officials.
Bawat detalye ng mga napapanahong pangyayari.
September 23 nang simulan ng Israel ang air attacks sa Lebanon.
Tuloy-tuloy na ihahati hanggang Sabado at Linggo. Weekend Agenda. Sabado at Linggo, 5:30 p.m. sa BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Welcome back at the Forefront. And Assistant Commissioner Vince, there were reports that former President Duterte's appointees in the Bureau of Customs were recently sacked due to disclosures of customs broker Mark Taguba and Customs Intelligence Officer Jimmy Guban at the Quadcom hearing. Is this accurate?
I don't want to preempt. We don't want to preempt any result of that inquiry. So I guess if there are charges that need to be filed, then I believe recommendations have been made preliminary recommendations have been made by the Quad Committee. So we'll just leave it there. But of course, I don't have any information right now on their participation on the allegations of being made. And again, I think there's still going to be an inquiry by other bodies, other investigative bodies. So we'll just leave it at that. I think right now it's as a organization, we really don't want to comment on that. No? Mm-hmm. We're just focused on doing our job and continue to reform the Bureau of Customs.
But have you seen some people already either fired or let go of in the Bureau of Customs?
Yes, we do. Like I said, no. The Bureau of Customs also conducts its regular check on our people. And if there are really pieces of evidence of misdoings, then we let go of certain people.
But this is more as part of your regular supervision of the Bureau of Customs and not because of the Quadcom hearings?
Some were there, if there are recommendations by Congress, no, as a whole, not just the Quadcom, but other entities, we look into it. And if there are evidence that would tend to prove those allegations, then we file the necessary charges and make sure that the people that are involved are no longer at a position where they can influence either the investigation or the work that's being done.
And during your time in the Bureau of Customs under then President Duterte, were you aware if the allegations that the presidential son Pulong Duterte and the son-in-law Man Scarpio were really involved in any of the operations in customs?
Or at least at my level, I'm not aware. I wasn't contacted or anything like that.
And before, there were also attempts to computerize the system in the Bureau of Customs through the World Bank. What happened to that project?
Unfortunately, we ran into some legal issues. Old legal issues way back 2015 where the proponents in that particular case somehow was able to connect the World Bank project. And it derailed that particular project. Now, to avoid further derailment and, of course, risk that the government loses investment in this particular project, we decided to cancel it out for now, to cancel the project for now. Of course, we've talked to World Bank, and World Bank is still fully committed to review the project once we're legally able to do so, and is legally capable to implement it. So maybe when we get a favorable result from the courts, we'll get back to the World Bank and maybe try to do it again.
But in the meantime, is the customs already computerizing its systems?
Yes. In fact, we're close to 100% digitized. What the World Bank project is going to do for us is to integrate all those digitized program. Because right now, we did it in-house, and we did it per function. Now, for all of those digitized processes to talk among themselves, we need one cohesive custom system. Right now, the E2M can't do that for us. So we were hoping that the new customs processing system, which we were going to establish to the World Bank, will do that for us.
And can it not be done even if it's not with the World Bank? Because it might take a while, because may nagkaroon ng case where, nasama unfortunately rin yung World Bank as a result. But then, is there no other third party that can do this for customs?
That's what we're exploring right now. No? In fact, there are several avenues and several proponents that has given us some options to do that. I don't want to preempt it again because there's a legal case that we're dealing with. But again, we're exploring those options.
And Assistant Commissioner Vince, agricultural smuggling has been already declared as economic sabotage. And right now, the prices of commodities are still very high for most Filipinos. So, what efforts are being done right now to curb smuggling, especially for commodities that really affect Filipinos? Kasama na dyan yung rice, and of course our farmers yung affected dyan, pati yung mga fishermen. What is the customs doing?
Of course, we're making sure that all agricultural products coming in from the country possess the necessary permits coming from the Department of Agriculture. There's a close coordination with the Department of Agriculture now. Number one, to guard against goods coming in that may have some serious health issues. No? So that's one. Number two, we're making sure that they pay the right taxes and declaring the proper volume. So to avoid any misdeclaration in both the value of the goods and as well as the volume. And of course, if recent activities would tell you that we're also aiding the government through our visitorial powers, in making sure that the warehouses that are keeping these products have the necessary permits, went through the proper customs procedure, and I guess in some way would contribute to the data of the DA as to the number of stocks that these warehouses still have.
Pati ba sa grocery, nakakakita kayo minsan ng smuggled goods? Yung visitorial powers nyo ba, ganun ka far-reaching?
Paminsan-minsan, yes. Because sometimes consumer complaints also reaches us. And if it's a concern that's within the jurisdiction of customs, of course, we'll act on it.
And lastly, for those traveling, any quick tips to avoid violating customs regulations and your goods being confiscated?
Yeah, again, we extend certain leniency, no, to our kababayans naman who are traveling, buying certain personal goods. But we really have to implement the law. You know? So may I just remind again to follow the de minimis rule. And secondly, of course, there are products, and you can look this up in our website. We have a list of regulated products, meaning products that you need a permit coming from other government agencies.
Can you give us an example?
Chocolates. But
chocolates?
You know, supposedly,
Oh my goodness.
supposedly they need an FDA permit. But you know,
Okay.
FDA is very lenient on it.
Alcohol.
Anyway.
A lot of people try to bring home alcohol as
As
well.
long as it is within the de minimis threshold, that's
Ano
no
yung de
problem.
minimis threshold?
10,000 pesos.
10,000 pesos. So it
Yes.
doesn't matter if it's 2 bottles of wine or 2 bottles of vodka.
Usually 2
basta-
bottles will cover it. But
Oo.
if it's cheap, then as long as you don't violate the de minimis threshold.
So ibig sabihin, kahit maglagay ka ng 5 bottles of alcohol in your luggage, as
Kumura
long as
naman,
they don't
yes,
reach
yes,
10,000
yes.
pesos, you
Again,
don't have
there
to
are
declare.
regulatory agencies that you might need some permits for that, no? And readily available naman yun sa mga airports natin.
Mga medicines ba, do you have to declare?
Yes, those are really regulated by FDA.
Regardless of the amount.
Even we've had those problems even on online purchases or small packages being sent through DHL or these couriers that contain even vitamins. No? These are FDA regulated issues. Of course, agricultural products. No, people love to buy fruits from Thailand.
So dapat wag mag-uwi ng
in
mga
Japan,
fruits.
yeah. Yes, the Department of Agriculture is very strict on it. Number one, for safety, but really, no, to balance the ecosystem in the country. There might be the fruits that are bringing in, or the poultry or meat that you're bringing in, might have diseases that might affect the livestock in the Philippines.
Or they might have some parasites or organisms
Yes,
that might affect
that
our...
are not present here that
Yeah.
you might bring in here. So that's why I think DA is very strict on those.
Thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner Vince. And for those traveling, may x-ray daw dun sa ilalim ng carousel. So please,
No escape.
please, no escape. Talagang declare if you have to. Thank you again
Thank you.
so much,
Thank you, Attorney
Assistant
Karen.
Commissioner Vincent. The Bureau of Customs has stepped up its campaign against anti-smuggling and has no plans of letting up anytime soon. Aside from working to apprehend smugglers, the Bureau is also cracking its whip on corrupt customs officials and employees for a two-pronged strategy to protect the local economy. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again tomorrow for meaningful conversations that would help you form an objective personal opinion. This is Attorney Karen Jimeno. Thank you for spending your hour with us.